This is just preying on stereotypes. Matt, I thought we were better than that. I thought we actually did research. I thought you were the side of facts and logic. So, guys, I hate that we have to cover Matt Walsh again, but we have a very common Matt Walsh L on the Twitter timeline that we need to go ahead and take a look at. But before we get into that, I do want to take a look at the fan art section. Let's first get into this one from Sawara. I forgot who said they wanted to see Suris in a teacup, but behold, Suris is taking a tea bath. The next one we have here is from Jack and Quill. He said a work in progress, may or may not finish, is a version of my character in the outfit from the anime version of Cold Steel Heart that came out in Jumpstart 2022. I love it. I love it dearly. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the fan... Well, not the fan art section. We're already done with the fan art section. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? No, we need to get into the Matt Walsh L. So let's take a look at his tweet here. Matt Walsh says that pit bulls should be banned, and there is no sane argument to the contrary. I guess we're going to have to make a sane argument to the contrary. They are dangerous animals, responsible for a vastly disproportionate number of fatal maulings in this country. The fact that you think they're cute does not outweigh the danger. Ban them. All right, so let's go ahead and get a couple obvious things out of the way. I have some facts and statistics to bring up that may put this into context for you. But let's go ahead and get the very first bit out of the way. You know the 1350 meme? You know, despite making only 13% of the population, black people are responsible for 50% of the violent crime. That meme? So this is just that meme again, okay? This is the exact same damn thing. This is what happens when you throw a statistic out without any actual evidence to back it up. This is what happens when you throw a stat out without something to chew on besides just the raw numbers. Because if we were to look at the raw numbers for, the attacks on Pitbull, or the attacks that Pitbulls have on people, the raw numbers would lead us to believe that what Matt is saying is correct. And I actually have some of those up here available because they were sent to me by Yara. America's most dangerous dog breeds. From 2005 to 2017, pit bulls were responsible for 284 fatal attacks on humans, with Rottweilers, German Shepherds, mixed breeds, and everything else going down the line responsible for less. Now, there's a couple of problems here. Looking at this data, it would be reasonable to assume, Young Culture TV, thank you very much for the follow. It would be reasonable to assume when looking at this data that pit bulls are in fact responsible for a vast majority of damage, and therefore there is some problem with pit bulls. Let me go ahead and throw a different stat for you real quick. Just real quick. How many pit bulls do you think are in the United States? There are approximately 18 million pit bulls in the United States. They account for 20% of the larger dog population. Huh. Well, that actually kind of throws things into a little bit of perspective. If pit bulls are making up 20% of the dog population, that's a very significant chunk, don't you think? That's an incredibly significant chunk. How many Rottweilers in the U.S. by comparison? Let's see here. How many why does that not bring up anything the same way? Hold on. Most popular breeds of dog in the United States. Let's see here. What is the number one selling breed? The American Kennel Club said Labrador Retrievers are highest. So, there's Rottweilers, but how many? I'm trying to figure out how many, because the stats that we are looking at showed that pit bulls accounted for so much more than Rottweilers. So what we should expect is that there should be a similar amount of Rottweilers, right? For that data to make any fucking sense? Why do we have data for the amount of pit bulls, but not data for the amount of Rottweilers? That's weird. How many Rottweilers are in the U.S.? I see Rottweilers in here for intake and euthanasia for shelters? There's an estimated 90 million dogs in the United States. While no conclusive population counts are there by breed, we estimate that 20% are classified to be pit bull type dogs. So without hard data on the other types of dogs, it's looking like potentially one of the majorities for the U.S. dog population. It might be pit bulls. Pit bulls and labs, maybe. But let me see here. Lab, label. Dogs are becoming more and more popular with their overall population by 24%, while the population of other strong breeds such as German Shepherds, down by 7%, Labrador Retrievers, down by 17%, have declined. Oh, so pit bulls are getting even more popular by year. But we're still not getting that hard data we're looking for. Well, if we can't find that hard data, if we can't find that, then maybe we can look at some other hard data. How about how many horses are in the United States? How many horses do we have here? So there's roughly 7.25 million horses in the United States. Okay, I have a question. How many fatalities are horses responsible for? Can anybody in chat take a guess? If pit bulls are responsible for about 20 deaths a year, how many deaths are horses responsible for? Anybody want to throw any? Said today, not many. Would you believe it if I told you that horses killed roughly 100 people in the United States each year through a variety of either accidents or other equestrian-related activities? You know, like being kicked in the face. About 100 a year. So wait a minute. 20 million pit bulls, 20 deaths a year. 7 million horses, 100 deaths a year. That's weird. I'm sorry, if pit bulls are so dangerous, then why are horses that much more dangerous? Even more so when you consider that the horses might not even be intending to kill you. Whereas the argument is always the pit bull is intending to. But, oh, wait, hold on. Let's get into that one, too. So, let's get into some of those numbers. In 2021... of the 51 Americans killed by dogs, 37 were killed by one or more pit bulls and their mixes, in some cases a combination with one or more other breeds, and 21 of those victims were either the owner of the pit bull or a member of the owner's family. So there's where we have our hard statistics, right? If there's 51 Americans killed by dogs, 20% of that is by pit bulls. That is at least somewhere, that makes sense with the data that we've seen so far. Except for one major problem. There may be a reason why so many dogs in the United States are identified as pit bulls. They're literally misidentified. 60% of dogs that are considered pit bulls, they are visually identified as pit bulls, but only 25 of the 62 dogs that are measured in these studies actually have any of the signatures of pit bull type breeds. The study here determined that the majority, 60% of dogs identified as pit bull type dogs, do not actually have any of the DNA signatures of the 4 pit bull type breeds. The misidentification of pit bull type dogs is a common thing, and there are numerous bully type breeds and their many mixes that are frequently misidentified as pit bull type dogs, including American Bulldogs, Cane Corsos, Dogo Argentinos, Preso Canarios, Labrador Bulldog mixes, Bulladors, and Boxer Bulldog mixes, and many more. All of which have the same or similar physical characteristics found in pit bull type dogs. Unfortunately, these have high rates of misidentification and also lead to inaccurate breed information in media reports and statistics about dog bites. So hold on a minute. If we have on one hand a vast majority of these dogs in the United States being pit bulls, but on the other hand, potentially 60% of those pit bulls are all misidentifications, then what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what it means is any of the data that we have used to determine that pit bulls are so much more dangerous is actually incorrect because it's based on faulty data. The visual identifier of data that we use for that has not actually been enough to establish what we would find when we are trying to determine which dogs are more violent, why are they more violent, and oh, wouldn't you know it, breed doesn't even fucking matter. Let's go ahead and get into this. So, there's another study I want to bring up. This one is in Science. Ancestry Inclusive Dog in... This is actually a study from April 2022. This is a very recent study. Ancestry Inclusive Dog Genomics challenges popular breed stereotypes. Modern domestic dog breeds are only 160 years old and are the result of selection for specific cosmetic traits To investigate how genetics align with breed characteristics, the DNA was sequenced of more than 2,000 purebred and mixed breed dogs. These data, coupled with the owner surveys, were used to map genes associated with behavioral and physical traits. Although many physical traits were associated with breeds, behavior was much more variable among individual dogs. Boy howdy, I wonder where we've heard that before. I wonder where that exact language has been used before. Oh, right, it's just race. It's just race. While there are characteristics between different races of human beings, insofar as we can even identify human beings have different races, turns out that there is more variance within individuals, genetically and behaviorally, than there are within the larger broad categories. Almost as if it's the same damn thing. It's scientific racism. If you have a thing against pit bulls, it's literally just racism, but with dogs. And because the dogs can't advocate for themselves, it's a whole lot easier to get away with. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. In general, physical trait heritability was a greater predictor of breed, but was not necessarily a predictor of breed ancestry in mutts. Among behavioral traits, bitability, how well dogs respond to human direction, was the most heritable trait by breed, but varied significantly in individual dogs. Thus, dog breed is generally a poor predictor of individual behavior and should not be used to inform decisions relating to selections of dogs. There's a part of this that I want to scroll down to, which I think is kind of important here. In our Ancestry Diversive cohort, we showed that the behavioral characteristics ascribed to our modern breeds are polygenetic, environmentally influenced, that's a big one there that we're going to get into, and found at varying prevalence in all breeds. We propose that behaviors perceived as characteristics of modern breeds derive from thousands of years of polygenetic adaptation and predates breed formation, with modern breeds distinguished primarily by aesthetic traits. By embracing the full diversity of dogs, including purebred dogs, mixed breed dogs, and purpose-bred working dogs and village dogs, we can fully realize dogs' long-recognized potential as a natural model for genetic discovery. Now, there is a part in this study that I'm going to grab that I need to find. Behavioral genetics in dogs has focused on modern breeds, which are isolated subgroups with distinctive physical and purportedly behavioral characteristics. Breeds like pit bulls they're things we made. We interrogated breed stereotypes by surveying 18,000 purebred and mixed breed dogs. Most behavioral traits are heritable, and admixture patterns in mixed breed dogs reveal breed propensities. Breed explains just 9% of behavioral variation in individuals. 9%. That is an astronomically low number for something that is supposed to be such a determining factor in the violence of a dog. Is the 9% where the violence is? Is that like magically where it is? But let's keep on going. Genome-wide association analysis identify 11 loci that are significantly associated with behavior, and characteristic breed behaviors exhibit genetic complexity. Behavioral loci are not usually differentiated in breeds, but breed propensities align, albeit weakly, with ancestral function. We propose that behaviors perceived as characteristic of modern breeds derive from thousands of years of adaptation and predates the breed formation, which basically means since we fucking made pit bulls, that is a breed that we developed, a cosmetic breed at that, any violent tendencies we see in those dogs has nothing to do with the pit bull breed. Because that breed, again, that is mainly cosmetic more than anything. So we surveyed owners of 18,000 dogs and sequenced the DNA of 2,155 dogs. Most behavioral traits are heritable, and then of course there's the bit here saying there's only 9% variation in behavior, but for more heritable, more breed differentiated traits like bitability, knowing breed ancestry can make behavioral predictions somewhat more accurate. But there are less heritable, less breed differentiated traits, like the agonistic threshold, or how easily a dog is provoked by frightening or uncomfortable stimuli. Otherwise, how easily a dog would be provoked into an attack. The likelihood that a dog will be provoked into something, whether that be an attack or an escape mechanism or what have you, is not something that is considered a very heritable trait. There's only a 9% of variation in behavior amongst breeds for dogs in the first fucking place. And one of the least heritable traits, the least breed-specific traits, is the violence factor. So, what this means is anybody who tries to say that pit bulls are more likely to be a problem. Oh, let's see. Yeah, here's another part in the discussion area where it says that the agonistic threshold, any less heritable trait like that, like its propensity to violence, is considered completely uninformative. There is literally not enough data for that to be informative at all as far as the study is concluded. So what this means is, when somebody's trying to argue that a pit bull is responsible for this much damage, this number is, first of all, significantly decreased by the fact that pit bulls are already misidentified. They are already misidentified to a great degree. There's a 60% rate of misidentification when we are looking at pit bulls. So you can already more than cut that figure in half. And then you can cut that figure down into being completely worthless when you point out that literally, scientifically, that violence is not a heritable trait for pit bulls. So what actually is causing that? What has caused the idea in our minds that pit bulls are more violent? During the 1970s, pit bulls were used in a variety of vicious sports of bear and bull baiting. This is where dogs were trained to attack wild animals that were cruelly chained to a post. Because of this history of fighting in the 1700s, people were led to assume that pit bulls had dangerous killing as part of their DNA. This is back during the 1700s. This is before the modern idea of our modern pit bull was even developed. What kind of picture does this paint for us instead? Well, much like when we talk about racism and the predispositions people have towards people of different color, what we have is a scenario where historically a particular type of dog was favored before we even knew how to do this kind of DNA sequencing to attack wild animals. And then people started getting the idea, because that dog was circumstantially being used, that dog was simply more violent, despite the fact that they weren't actually any more violent. But let's go ahead and read a little bit on this. We have some reading to do. Are pit bulls dangerous? For as long as we can remember, pit bulls, otherwise known as American Staffordshire Terriers, have been feared and loathed by many members of the public. Due to stereotyping, pit bulls have earned a reputation for always displaying aggressive and unpredictable behavior that is widely believed by society and the media. Many shocking pit bull attacks towards other dogs or other people have made the news over the years, further embedding the idea that pit bulls are dangerous. More recently, a pair of pit bulls attacked and mauled a woman to death in South Africa on Friday, December 27th, and an unsupervised pit bull attacked a 7-year-old Louisiana girl on January 7th, 2023. We are now back to the post that was put up by Matt Walsh. It is reported that a relative made an attempt to halt the attack by striking the dog with a cane, but was unsuccessful in stopping the attack. The 7-year-old eventually succumbed to her injuries, while the dog was euthanized and the owner was arrested. Some data even suggests that pit bulls make up only 6% of the population of dogs, but are responsible for 68% of the dog bite attacks since 1982. That is incongruent with the data that we saw earlier, but I guess that also makes sense when you consider that the data we saw earlier was at least 60% inaccurate. Another report from the CDC on dog bite fatalities concluded that pit bull bites are responsible for more fatalities than other breeds. Alarmingly, multiple sources suggest that children are most at risk for pit bull attacks. A recent report by the American Animal Hospital Association states that pit bulls are responsible for the highest percentage of reported bites across studies. That said, many pit bulls do make loving family pets, living their best lives without causing any harm. For every pit bull attack story, there are countless viral videos of smiling pit bulls loving on a couple's new baby, or being tucked into bed when smiling and wearing an adorable dog onesie. Almost as if just saying out loud, if the data is true that there's, about 20 million pit bulls in the United States, there being only 20 attacks. 20. That means that we are looking at a fraction of 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 a percent of pit bulls that are responsible for any of those fucking attacks. I don't know how to say if there's 20 million pit bulls in the United States, 20 attacks is such a statistically insignificant number that focusing on it is literally something we would only do for the purpose of media attention. And we make legislation for this. Pit bulls are banned in certain countries. Pit bulls require licenses in other countries. And pit bulls give you stereotypes here in the States. Yeah, it's literally a 1 in a million chance a pit bull will have a fucking fatal attack on you. A 1 in a million chance. Literally. Statistically. Some insurance will not cover medical bills in the event that someone or another pet is attacked by a pit bull because this breed is excluded from insurance coverage. There are multiple groups actively working to redeem pit bulls in the eyes of the public and end breed discrimination. One person who has always advocated strongly for pit bull dog breeds is dog trainer Caesar Milan. One of the dogs Caesar relies on most during his training sessions is a well-mannered pit bull named Junior. Despite being a bull, Junior is extremely calm and reliable and helps Caesar evaluate and train dogs in need of rehabilitation all the time. Learn more about the history of pit bulls and how they got their poor reputation directly from Caesar in the below clip. Let's go and take a look. Or I guess I won't get the clip. I guess I won't. Oh. 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 What the fuck is this one? Oh, what the fuck is this one? Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's strange. I wonder what this one means. I wonder. Pit bulls aren't actually a recognized breed. There's a common myth that the general public doesn't actually know how to recognize a pit bull when they see one. This is probably unlikely since media coverage of pit bulls is so prevalent, and there's lots of information about pit bulls on social media. In general, pit bulls are recognized by their square-shaped heads and muscular bodies. We think this myth of pit bulls being unrecognizable actually stems from a misunderstanding surrounding what a pit bull really is. Many people think that pit bulls are a specific breed, but the term pit bull is actually an umbrella term that encapsulates several dog breeds that are often called bully breeds. So what you're saying is... So I will say this. That literally is why people would misidentify pit bulls. Like, that is exactly how people would misidentify pit bulls, by and large. Examples of these breeds include the American Pit Bull Terrier, the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, Cane Corso. We already went through all these. There's also a large number of mutts that likely have pit bull's DNA, including in their mixed, but it may not be obvious. It's very possible you could rescue a sweet mutt that is descended from a bully breed and never know unless you decided to take a DNA test with your dog. While some studies have presented reliable data that suggests pit bulls bite and attack more frequently than other dogs, other reputable studies have contradicted this, finding that determining a dog's breed doesn't determine its propensity for aggression. I wonder what this is going to link to. Let's click this study. Okay, so it linked to an FAQ. I thought it was going to link to the study in Science that we actually saw, but it's linking to an FAQ. So it's not linking to a primary source. Still, though, any dog, including beloved golden retrievers and lap dogs, can bite if provoked by the right circumstances. Pit bull attacks can cause a lot of damage due to their size, strength, and determination. Pit bulls have an incredibly strong jaw that allows them to clamp down on their target. That can be said of many other many dogs. Pit bull attacks may be reported more often because victims are more severely injured and need medical help more often. Meanwhile, if a tiny Chihuahua attack, the dog is too small to cause a lot of damage, and any injuries could likely be addressed at home. So even having... This means that even other breeds of dog may actually be more aggressive, but they just lack the strength to act on that. Pit bulls, insofar as that's even a term we can use for dogs at all, do not have that higher propensity for aggression. We have already looked into the study that showed that. So what we have here is dog strong, media is used to reporting on dog. There is a history of dog being used for fighting. Public has been predisposed against certain dog breed for 400 years, and thus, public has an idea of how that dog breed operates. If we synthesize all this data together, we get a grouping of dogs that cannot even be properly identified. We get data that is based on higher rates of reporting, not higher rates of incidence. We get data that suggests that genetics actually have nothing to do with the aggression in these dogs. And wow, holy shit, it just sounds like we're talking about racism again. Let's go circle back here. Pitbull should be banned and there is no sane argument to the contrary. Well, the fact that it's literally a 1 in a million chance statistically that a Pitbull attack is there or fatal. The fact that breed does not account for a propensity for violence, any ability to be dangerous at all. Breed doesn't account for that at all. And the fact that this is literally just Matt Walsh grabbing onto an old known stereotype about dogs and running with it without any information at all. Yeah, that sounds about like Matt Walsh. They are dangerous animals. No, they're not. Not any more dangerous than any other dog of a similar size. Literally. They're responsible for a vastly disproportionate amount of fatal maulings in the country. Yes, they are responsible for a higher amount of fatal maulings in the country. You're right. However, even that data is based off of a false foundation. A false ability to identify pit bulls in general. A higher rate of reporting on pit bulls in general. It's no wonder that this just looks like 1350, as it is just 1350 again. Anytime you hear about a child being mauled to death by a dog, you already know it's a pit bull without even checking the details. Again, this is just preying on stereotypes. Matt, I thought we were better than that. I thought we actually did research. I thought you were the side of facts and logic. Why instead are you relying on just a stereotype? You already know when you hear. Okay, cool. So you're relying on people just not actually looking into any stories. You're relying on people just reading headlines. It should tell you all you need to know. It's insane that these beasts are in our neighborhoods. This is like saying when you look at a violent crime, you already know that there's a higher chance that the person who reported it is black. Why are these beasts in our suburbs? It's the same statement. It's the same shit. When you say you already know without checking the details, that should tell you everything you need to know. No, it doesn't. All it tells you is that people have a bias that they confirm all the time. We literally have a study right here that shows that the agonistic threshold, the exact thing we would be looking for violence in those dogs, is not something that can be inherited. Dogs get violent when they are trained to be violent. It just happens that pit bulls are big and strong. German shepherds are also big and strong. Border collies can also be big and strong. Multiple dog breeds, mastiffs, can be big and strong. But when people have the idea in their head that this is a violent breed, people who are looking for a dog to be violent, they're going to rely on that 400 years of misconception about those animals. They're going to rely on that 400 years of faulty data, and they're going to select the dog that they bring and they breed and they use to be violent, that they train to be violent. They're going to pick that dog and train that dog based on that misunderstanding, which means you will have more people looking for violent animals who will happen to select pit bulls. This is Sociology 101. Don't give me bullshit gun comparisons. You have a constitutional right to own a gun. You have a constitutional right to have whatever animal you want. Hey, Matt, I don't give a shit about the Constitution. I don't. Any argument that relies on saying the law says X, therefore, I don't give a shit about. The law once said slavery was okay. I don't care. Guys, what we have here is a scenario where, as usual, Matt Walsh is relying on stereotypes and faulty data to come to a conclusion, and then relying on the fact that you, too, will very likely already believe those faulty stereotypes so that you smile and nod at the shit he says. It is very easy to misidentify what a pit bull is, because what a pit bull is isn't even a fucking breed. We don't have a official DNA breed that is pit bull. And the likelihood for violence for pit bulls is infinitely lower than it is for anything else when you consider the fact that they don't inherit violence. They are taught violence. We hear many stories in the news about how pit bulls behave perfectly fine, and then they just snap and turn on their owner. People say that dogs are unprovoked and the attack comes out of nowhere, but that is always hearsay. Experts have been saying, and you can find over here on Fetch by WebMD, there's an article right here. I will literally throw it into the chat right now. Experts say that pit bulls are no more or less unpredictable than any other dog. If a dog is attacking, he has likely been triggered by pain or something else that made it incredibly uncomfortable. In order to prevent attacks from occurring, pet owners need to be able to read their own dog's body language to identify when they may be feeling triggered before escalating to aggressive behavior. Dogs are animals like anybody else. You and I are animals. We get pushed to a certain point, we'll do dumb shit. Pitbull attacks may seem particularly unpredictable because of their inability to understand a dog's body language, and because of the force these dogs can use when they attack because they are just naturally stronger animals. Pit bulls were bred to be used in dogfights, but that doesn't mean that they are more violent, because that particular trait, no matter how hard we bred for it, we would not be able to select it, because that trait right there comes down to training. That trait, that violence, the agonistic trait, that one comes down to our influence, our outside influence. So, if somebody is breeding dogs to be violent, they are probably going to be treating those dogs in a way that will make them violent when they are puppies. And of course, we're going to come to the conclusion that, oh my god, that whole litter of pit bulls is violent. The whole litter was trained to be violent, you numbskull! And I don't know how much farther I have to go into this topic, but let's summarize our results one last time, so we have it all here for anybody who wants to listen to this scatterbrained version of me talking about this. Fact 1. People misidentify pit bulls all the time, which automatically makes it impossible for us to get accurate data on pit bull attacks. Fact 2. Pit bull is not a recognized breed, which feeds into Fact 1. Fact 3. Violence is not a heritable trait. Fact 4. Pit bulls have a history for the last 400 years of being used and trained by people who wanted them to be aggressive. Those pit bulls did not gain aggression via heritability, as evidenced by Fact 3. Those pit bulls gained the aggression because a trainer was trying to make them aggressive. If you are breeding an animal to be aggressive, you're probably training them to be aggressive. So, wow, holy shit, what a weird scenario when you end up with an aggressive animal across the board. And Fact 5. Even if we ignored every other fucking fact I just said, if there are in fact 18 to 20 million pit bulls in the United States, then the chance of a pit bull attack that is fatal happening is 1 in a million. Quite literally. Because there are only 20 attacks a year. Pit bulls are less fatal than horses. Thank you. I don't know what else I need to say. Those are the stats. That is the data. That is the history, that is the evidence, and this is the idiot. So hopefully, I've given you all everything you need to come to your own conclusion about all this. Sakura said, how many fatal attacks a year? 20. 20. Versus a horse's 100. And there's half as many horses in the States, less than half. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know this was a more scatterbrained episode than usual because I had a whole bunch of research I was trying to utilize for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And as always, everybody, don't be a fucking animal racist. Insert end of video tagline here.